Hey there, Sarah with Next Gen Medium, nextgenmedium.com, Next Gen Sovereign Community. Hi. This video is not going to be 2 hours long like the last one. We are going to be taking a look at Graham Platner's chart. So I live in Maine, and I am one of the people that voted for Graham Platner. And now we have a big giant weird thing where Graham Platner is supposedly stepping down as the Democratic nominated candidate to run against Susan Collins. And we're in the middle of the Maine Democrats trying to figure out how they're going to find a new person. And they have to do it by July 27th. So today's July 12th. Last week, news broke that eventually became the straw on the camel's back that made it so people were requesting Graham to step down from being the Democratic candidate. I want to say nominee. And this comes after months of this incredible candidate, of this incredible campaign, somebody that came out of nowhere, that had no political career, oyster farmer from the coast of Maine who is talking about democratic socialist themes and just took hold of liberal Mainers, and several kind of scandals in the process, a tattoo that resembled Nazi image, relationship stuff, dick pics, maybe. I don't know. Like some of them I chalked up to Susan Collins or the Democratic institutional folk who just wanted Graham Platner out. And so they're just doing all these things, throwing all these things our way. Unfortunately, it involves people and very real situations where people get hurt emotionally, maybe even sort of physically, maybe sexually, which are, of course, things that are, playing on the morals of the liberals who care very much about the Me Too movement, who care very much about Believe Women, but are now seeing their very morals sort of being weaponized against this person who wants to bring the change that people apparently in the state really want. Give me a second. I'm going to close the door. So we're going to take a look at Graham Platner's birth chart. I got his birthday somewhere. I didn't have the time. The time that he was born. And having the time that someone's born helps you really get specific with the birth chart in ways that you can't do if you just have a date, September 1st, 1984. While we can get lots of information from that and really can understand what someone's maybe going through based on not having the time, I like to have the time, and I think I found it. So this whole video is going to be based on my theory of what the birth time is. And the birth time that I am theorizing is 2 a.m. in the morning. And I'll share with you why in the slides that we got here. So looking at this chart, this is what the sky looked like when Graham Platner was born, September 1st, 1984, supposedly, maybe 2 a.m. in the morning in Blue Hill, Maine. Is it Blue Hill Memorial Hospital? I don't know. I think I mentioned that I'm a Mainer and that I voted for him, and I'm having lots of feels. I'm also very skeptical of the process that's going to be selecting a new person and how all this is going to go down. I hope it's not a huge mess. I think it's going to be a story. I think it's going to be quite a challenge, whatever's coming our way here. I think we already have the challenge. So this is Graham Platner's chart, the sky when he was born. My theory is that the ascendant-descendant line at the eastern side is the 22 degrees Cancer, and the western side would be 22 degrees Capricorn, right? Yep. And so the interesting thing, if I am correct with the birth time, we would have we would have all of the placements of his all of the planets, they would all be below the ascendant descendant line, which is something I don't know if I've come across in the dozens of charts that I've read, and I've um, kind of looked at things, people I know, and so there's a lot of energy that's going to private life. And what else is interesting is to see how many of the placements take place in from Virgo through to Libra to Scorpio into Sag, and then just the tiniest bit into Capricorn. We have a large portion of the zodiac that's represented here, but a large portion where there's an absence of a planet and has a purity to it. And if we were to look at it in the ascendant descendant way, we would see that a large portion of his energy goes to personal relationships, the one-on-one relationships, if I'm correct. We have the Sun and Mercury nearly conjunct. This shows an individual in Virgo, by the way. So, and in third house. So let's put the symbolism all together. Virgo, great with detail. Mercury ruled. Mercury right there in its house of Virgo. So this is a communicator. This is a person who brings information together. He's able to look at the information in its own place and be able to connect the dots and see how it's all connected together. He can even like categorize and say this belongs there and that belongs there. He is known as a very maybe articulate person. Virgo is related to health. It's related to service. And service is a big deal in this guy's chart. I don't think people maybe see in astrology, you can kind of get a feel of like what the innate energies are. And if we could do this with our candidates, maybe we would feel a different kind of relationship with them. Maybe, I don't know. But so we have that Virgo piece. The ruler of Virgo is Mercury. There's Mercury right there. This is a communicator. This is a messenger. This is a person who is a thinker and a speaker. I look at this combo and I think he is a channeler in the metaphysical way that I talk about things. I think everybody has psychic ability. Everybody's intuitive. Everybody can merge with their higher self, the most authentic version of you, where you live the most, the most liberated life that is expected of your existence. And so these are the things that belong here. And when it comes to his identity, we're also adding in the third piece, which is also a Gemini house, Mercury ruled house by default. Third house is about communication. It's about early childhood. I think he married a teacher, like a elementary school teacher, I think. And so like all of these identity pieces in the third house, that kind of complements that aspect of her. And he himself could also be an elementary school teacher by the looks of the identity and the Mercury and the Virgo. But I think what's also interesting about the third house is that it's related to neighbors and neighborhood and local. And I think putting all these pieces together, we see somebody who's in local politics, and that makes a lot of sense. At least me as a Mainer seeing that. We also have Venus in her sign of Libra at the 0 degree. This is an archetype energy that is about harmony and liberation and inequality and beauty. This is the 4th house. This is home. We also have Pluto in its sign. Mercury in its sign, Venus in its sign, Pluto in its sign of Scorpio. This is a millennial signature. I have this too. Also, having Saturn in Scorpio, I'm of that as well. And even having Uranus in Sagittarius, that's my signature too. He is a millennial who has Neptune in Sagittarius. Mine is just barely into Capricorn, so that's where we differ. He and I. I think he was born 8 months before me or something like that. And so he takes on a lot of the millennial energies. That Pluto Scorpio, that's some deep shit, and that's some stuff that millennials hold with us that is a trauma piece of our chart. And we are either broken by it or we are made from that. It's the phoenix rising kind of shit. And when people have tough times, millennials are like, this is all we know. And bootstraps, let's go. We're the ones who are trying to clean things up, it feels like, right? That's a millennial thing to say. But with that Saturn piece, we have a sense of authority in this house of like trauma and depth and deep transformation. Or we feel a sense of oppression by it. So we either own our Saturn or we're denying it. It's kind of one way or another. And for Graham, this isn't his fifth house of passion. This is where he gets like a sense of inspiration is from these things. And I can even see like having interest in history as part of this fifth house. I can kind of see that in there. Which seems, from the conversations I've heard him talking, like is a place of passion for him. But fifth house is also about children. It's also about hobbies. So I would say he probably really likes what are those called? The murder mysteries kind of shows. Because that's very Scorpio with all the Scorpio energy. Actually, Pluto's a very dominant energy. We'll see that in a second. Chart ruler in the fifth house as well. Very powerful fifth house. And then the sixth house. This is the year that is of focus for him right now before his birthday comes up very soon. This is being recorded on July 12th of 2026. And so a lot going on in the sixth house. We've got this wonderful, I think this is a beautiful signature here. First of all, Sagittarius sixth house. This is another like service area of the chart. So sixth house service, it's also health and everyday, like the mundane living in life. Sagittarius, that is a very adventurous everyday kind of vibe. That is big ideas. That's beliefs, religion, spirituality. That is foreign lands and foreign people. That's a part of his everyday life. Sixth house. To see Uranus and Mars conjunct, he is motivated by the big ideas and also countering big ideas, or being, what's it called? I always say this to my husband. What do I say to him? I can't remember. It's like oppositional defiance kind of thing. It's like he is motivated by a revolution. Like, holy shit. Yeah. That's pretty good. It's a big idea. And I think why he went into, politics and a big campaign that was about a revolution, like there it is, because that's his everyday energy. That's just who he is. And then adding in the Neptune, there's an idealism to it. Now it could also be a delusion or illusion piece too. And it can get real big and almost unmanageable with that Sagittarius as part of that. But this is also the service house. So why does he serve? Because there's big ideas, there's a revolution at hand, and we want a better world. That's a dream. That's Neptune. There's also psychic here. And another reason why I feel like this is a person who's a channeler, because channeling and psychic are one and the same in my world. They do have a difference, but when we're talking generalities, you know what I mean? Um, we can combine the channeling piece and the psychic piece. In fact, I would say there's times when he's talking and he's not even thinking about what he's saying. It's just going through his mouth. It's like from source to your ears. And we do have an opposition with that revolutionary, motivated energy that is opposing a Chiron, a woundedness in the hidden places, the hidden things that are said, the hidden knowledge, information, the hidden curiosity. There could be something from his past that created a woundedness around this, something that he learned about, something that's hidden. It could be and what we're going to see is how much this house gets activated during the campaign. North Node, this is a place of fatedness. This is the lessons he needs to continue to learn about, is how to deal with the woundedness of the 12th house, the hidden things, the subconscious. Karma house, I think a lot of things came around here, but then again, if the karma was not natural karma, universal karma, then it's karma that's going to come back to whoever was issuing the fake karma, so to say. Midheaven is opposite Venus. I think that's a very important thing. This Venus gets activated quite a bit with things, and his Saturn gets activated quite a bit with things. I noticed through some of the examples that I'm going to show you. Venus on the Imam Kuli, that's what is opposite of the midheaven, shows a family karma, family roots that have to do with harmony and justice, or the lack of, but like a female harmony, harmonic energy, and it's at that 0 degree, so it's very archetype. Let's move along. So one of the reasons why I felt like his birth time is 2 a.m., one of the ways that I tried to deduce this was his time in the military would be a career kind of thing. And if we're going to get like really dumb with this, then we're going to say his 10th house, career and status, is military related. So we're going to put Aries there. All right. But we can't just go by one thing, right? Let's look at his dominant energies, if I'm correct. Either way, the placements are where they're at. It looks like the house is taken into consideration here. Not heavily weighted, though. Most dominant energies are Mercury. He is a translator. He is a messenger. And Pluto, power, transformation, deep transformation, painful, to the root transformation. He is doing millennial work. Dominant energy, earth and water. Really cool to see this. This is really useful to meet people where they're at. Really useful. To have air is cool, to have ideas, but if people don't resonate with you and you're in like a different world, then it's like you're not talking to people who need the things. That's why I feel like sometimes I'm very air and fire. Going back, I think this is a really interesting piece here. His signature sign. So if we were to go back, we would say he grew up seeing himself as a Virgo because of the sun sign. It's traditionally in our culture, we're looking at the sun sign when it comes to astrology and a horoscope. But I would say to him, if I was doing a reading with him, you should consider looking at Cancer from now on for your horoscope, because the ascendant's there. If my time is right, if 2 a.m. is the time that he was born. And if that's the case, then he should be looking at Cancer rising for his ascendant moving forward. However, when we look at the totality of the energies altogether, we see that Pisces is actually a signature energy, which I think is really fascinating. He grew up near the ocean. Um, Eventually, he found himself, going to war, where he's going to another side of the world, the desert, and then he moves to Washington, and then eventually he moves back to Maine, where he's back near the ocean. And it's actually at this time that if he feels like maybe he's found where he belongs, he's feeling like he's more centered and more like aligned with who he is and what he wants to do. And he's opportunities are coming up. And it really seems like once he moved to the ocean, there was like a change for him, a huge change for him. And this is just going by what he's said and sort of the stories that go along with that. And so I would look at this Pisces signature and I would say, yeah, like moving to the ocean was the therapy that you needed because you were back where your energy belongs. And I would say even like being in the ocean is like a cleansing event for him and it's part of his job. So I think that's really fascinating. Here we are looking at when he may have gone into the military. So I had to do some digging. I went to Wikipedia and I got some dates and stuff to try to line up the chart. And I had to even think back to my own referencing because my boyfriend went into the Marines after high school, and I think it was 2003, and I think it lined up with Graham going into the military. And so like I had to remember, when did Jeremy, my boyfriend, when did he go to boot camp? And I remember there was some summer that we had together that year, but not a lot. And so like I tried to get as close a date as possible for that. And I think I did pretty good. And even assuming that South Carolina is where Graham went for boot camp. So not only are we going on a supposed birth time, but we're also going on all of this information and going to boot camp. Okay. And in doing so, we see during this time, August 2003, great time for rock and roll, by the way. This is when this is when garage band music started coming back around. Thank God. Thank you, Franz Ferdinand, Killers. Ugh, what a good time for rock and roll. Anyway, but it was during this time that Graham Platner, if I have my information correct, we have Saturn going through its first house, which makes a lot of sense. If you're going into the military, there is a sense of gaining authority of the self because this is about identity, first house, identity. So we are gaining authority of the self. We're also gaining maybe discipline within the self. And that is very Saturnian. Saturn is serious and it's a boss. It's about structure and stratification and the rules and all these things. And I think going into the military, like that is the world that you are choosing to walk into and be a part of, and maybe to absorb as pieces of who you are, your identity. We also have his second house having Jupiter, so we're expanding value, which happens when you are learning new things. You would see this if he was going into college, because you're expanding value of your skills. So that's value of the self. I think for him, going into the military was a positive experience in his ability to figure out how he's special, his leadership, and his heart. And I think military goes hand in hand with being of service, which goes along with the Virgo energy that's part of his sun and the sixth house, like all kinds of stuff there that feels like, and the Mars, a sense of motivation, a sense of like doing things, how you change the reality around you is Mars, physically on the physical realm. Moving along, I just want to just get through these because I get caught up on little things and I'm like, "Oh, look at this, look at this." You can also see with this time, that there's a lot of squares, so it was not an easy time for him. Squares always bring challenge. The red lines bring challenge. The blue lines bring flow. So we do see a flow from his rebel self, his rebel motivated big idea self. Oh, look, we have Pluto going through there, just passing that. So there's a big transformation in duty and service, health going on. This is a long time that this happens, though. Flow right to what are we looking at? Or Venus. Venus is a big energy in his chart, especially when it comes to the campaign. Um, yeah. What else do I want to say? I think that's it. Oh, also seeing Uranus here in the ninth house. Now, with military, you have the opportunity for travel worldwide. And Uranus in this house for 7 years was going to bring that for him. Also, Pisces. This is connecting to that Pisces signature energy. That's really fascinating. And, marine, that's kind of oceany, right? That's Pisces kind of terminology. Fascinating that he went into the Marines and traveled worldwide. So that's Uranus is bringing the signature of the house, which is worldwide travel. That's one of the things. Higher education, that's also a part of it. I would say going in the military, you're definitely getting more education, very specific ways. And then the Pisces is the ocean piece, but there's also a spirituality to this. So it almost kind of like war and spirituality, beliefs, ideals. But there's also like an expression piece to this that almost like is conflicting with going into the military, because it's almost like you have to squash your identity, which Saturn in the first house is absolutely representing, is squashing identity by building discipline, gaining authority by seeing authority and emulating it within the self. I think you don't really capture authority until your authority piece has conflict and has resolution, because then it's exercising the capacity of your own authority, inner authority. Going to Neptune. Okay, moving along. We don't want to get stuck. This is Reddit posts. So one of the things that was common in the smearing was Reddit posts from the past and his bitchy posts where he was complaining about things, or he was saying things about people and not very tactful ways, not ways that a career politician would write, but something that, an angry young man who by this point had been in the military for years and maybe was coming to terms with the fact that his time in the military was authoritarian regime bullshit via United States. Like, I'm a representative of that, and coming to terms with that as part of your identity. That is probably not an easy thing to have a realization of, or to continue doing, because it's the career path you chose. It's what you've already invested lots of time in. I'm just, empathizing. So we look at his first house, and there is a stellium going through his first house of identity. We have the sun that was illuminating his ascendant. We have chatter. We have growth of identity. We have movement of, physical appearance. Maybe he's working out and stuff at this time. Maybe he's juicing up. Juice is a weird word. And we're seeing that there is his Jupiter opposition, where he's going through a sense of growth that maybe an overexpansion of self. Did I say that in a way that was like not thinking too much? You probably think a lot about yourself, and in the sense of, like, maybe an embellished sense of self, perhaps. We also have his Saturn return happening. So this is Saturn, that depressive, serious, maybe taking resources away, energy that's imposed onto your sense of authority. So this is like, this is the conflict, or this is the sort of support of authority. So this is either challenging your sense of authority, or this is like supporting your sense of authority, and maybe both. We also have the North Node here, so it it's not an easy challenge here. It's not an easy challenge because you have to go about healing or bringing a fatedness in which you need to make choices, and if you don't want to make choices, then you're going to meet your fatedness and have conflict and problems. Meeting a north node. There's choices you need to be making to create change and movement and progress. And if you're ignorant to that, and not ignorant in a bad way, just like ignorant, like you don't know what's happening, that you need to make choices. If you're being resistant to the choices, then it's sort of a boomerang effect that is just like, not only do you meet it, but like it hurts, it's painful. So he's completing a Saturn cycle that took 14 years to get to this point, and he's creating a new one. So he's creating a real new sense, a renewal of his discipline, of his seriousness, of his authority here. And this was in 2013. And maybe one way of exercising that was to be a dick on on Reddit, and to say shocking things. He is a person who expresses bigly. At sixth house. That's the Sag. That's Mars and the Uranus. Mm. Yeah, he and I have some things in common with our charts here. The Jupiter in the seventh house, we both share that too, except my Jupiter's in Aquarius. Still trying to figure that one out. Okay. January 15th, 2020. These were more Reddit posts, but there was more evolution happening here, where I think this is when the oyster farm kind of enters the picture, I think. So not only are we continuing sort of this um, Reddit saying not great things thing, but we're also like having a change with responsibility and maybe new opportunities, which is really fascinating to see at this time. All of this activity on the other side of this sense of self. So before we've been seeing a lot of activity in the first house. This is the first time we see activity happening on the opposite side of his chart, that's in the house of other. How you interact with the other. The other can be a partner, like a romantic life partner kind of aspect, or it can be like a business partner. And we're seeing a lot of activity going on here. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a stellium. We've got ideal. We've got power. We've got discipline. We've got vitality. We've got conversation, contracts. We got a south node, so it's a kind of a comfortable energy, an easy energy. It's in your expansive house with Jupiter in here. It's Capricorn, which is where Saturn belongs. We have the opposition energy going on here of the ascendant. We have the north node in the first house. Again, there's challenge going on with who he is, and it has to do with whatever was happening in 2020, January 2020. All this opportunity coming his way. And of course, we know this is where the pandemic really kind of began. So this was his opportunity during the pandemic. Was, who does he partner with? Who is the other? This was a huge piece. Look at all the oppositions going on at this time. His mercurial self is being challenged versus the values in Pisces in the ninth house. we have this opposition of Chiron and his Mars, his rebel rebel movement self, and Mars over there. Okay, and then we have beautiful trine energy going to Uranus, who's going through his 11th house. This is bringing different people into his social realm, and they are farmers. That's Taurus is a representative of farmers. I also have MAGA movement under Taurus, but we can also say people who own land. We can say, because this is like a social network. This is also a place of hope as well, and like dreams. So material wealth, fine arts, fine food, jewelry. This is banking. So these are the kind of people coming into that are part of his social network, but these are different kind of people than he's used to, and they might be a bit eccentric too. That might be another part of it. And that went on. That started in 2018 for him and would continue until this year. Funny enough. Okay. This is when he got married. So I only have the information that it was fall 2023 when he got married. And so I picked a date, and now I'm realizing that I probably could have gone one more week because we would have Venus aligning with his Mercury or near his Mercury sun. And so that would be the love relationship piece with his identity piece and kind of like a I do kind of thing right here. I thought that worked out very well. We also have a stellium going through his 4th house of home. We also see this purple box, which is reflective of that year. What is the focus of that year for? It's called perfection. It's a year where it's focused on the home. So 2023, like here's where he got married. It's ideal. It almost, and if we move this Venus over here, it would be trine Jupiter in his 7th house. So that would hit the partner. Oh, messed that up, you guys. I should have done that. But we also see challenge here. We also see challenge of that sense of authority and discipline that comes with his beliefs. Maybe getting married was something that he doesn't maybe believe he's capable of doing, of like meeting the expectations of marriage and belief and morals and stuff like that. Possibly. I don't know. I'm putting words in the mouth here, but and what is being squared are his fated nodes. So it's not an accident, this marriage, but it challenged the Saturn piece going through his house of belief and spirituality. And maybe even like, who do you think you are? Like that's maybe a Pisces piece here. What is possible? And sometimes we get to challenge what we think of ourselves. Like in my own story of like discovering my psychic ability at 33, like that is a huge world change of perspective. And suddenly what I didn't know was possible of me was possible. And also like going into sales, I never thought of myself as a salesperson until recently when I had to reach out and get a job and asked if I could be part of the sales department, not because I really wanted to do sales. It's because I never had considered that for myself and I wanted to see what was possible. We're also seeing at this marriage piece a time of expansion of that social group, the people you choose to be around. Jupiter's going through there. It's bringing benefits, it's bringing beneficial energy. And I'm wondering what from this may have led down the road to a campaign for Senate. Duh. The reason why, another reason why I chose the birth time that I did was to put at this time of the marriage is to put Pluto finishing up in the 7th house of relationship, deep transformation for 20 years from 2008 to 2025. We saw Pluto go through the 7th house. And I just did a reading on somebody. I just did a chart analysis on somebody who got married around the same time and had the same placement, and is probably the big reason why I said I think Graham's chart probably shows this Pluto placement at that time. It's because of that chart that I saw not too long ago that showed she got married right at the when before Pluto eventually made it into the 8th house, before it finished up the 7th house. It still had like a year and a half to waffle back and forth, but close enough to the end where like it's getting burnt out from the journey. So that was a huge reason why we ended up with a 2 a.m. birth time, because it built an ascendant that had Capricorn in the 7th house, knowing that at this time, people were wrapping up 7th house Pluto placements, transits. Duh. That was the big reason to show the slide. That's the last thing I talked about. All right, this is the campaign beginning. There are like 2-3 important things I need you to keep in your brain pocket. First of all, we're looking at, it's so funny because I remember thinking that that Graham is, I remember thinking he's probably a Leo ascendant because of his appearance. That's why I was thinking, that's why I kind of had it stuck. But now, like even looking at this chart here, Cancer ascendant, this is when the campaign kicked off, we have Jupiter going through Cancer. We're getting an expansive sense of self. We're even getting maybe a renewal, an upgrade of self, and happening in his first house of identity. We're also seeing Moon in its sign of Cancer, so we're having a nice supportive energy there. We're also having Venus conjunct his ascendant. And let me tell you this, I think there's 2 important things here. This campaign kicked off with Venus on his ascendant, and Venus brings magnetism and charisma. People are attracted, people are mesmerized. And I think this signature, whoever launched the campaign for this day, like they must have done their astrology, because I'm here to say the campaign did very well until we saw some changes in the astrology, and I'll share those with you. You don't worry. But we got to keep in mind Jupiter in the first house for the start of the campaign, for the campaign. We also have Venus in the first house, actually on the ascendant, okay? Now we also have for this day like an announcing of, hey, I'm Graham Platner, I'm running for senator, or for the Democratic candidate for senator. So we have highlight of the individual self. That's Leo, that's second house. How he makes money is being a leader and showing his face and being a representative, or being, in a sense, a performer, being on stage, so to say. He makes his money that way. This is his value. Him showing up, showing his face. Announcement made. This is Mercury moving through that house, showing his value. The sun is the spotlight. This is a person of value. Moving through, what else have we got? We got the Pluto in Aquarius. So Pluto is in the sign of the movement. I'll talk more about that. Something else that's super friggin' important is this right here, Neptune, Saturn. Now it's going retrograde at this time, but this point is so friggin' important this year. 0 degree Aries. And what's important is that it aligns with his midheaven. So when things hit your midheaven, it's sort of like your status is elevated and you're sort of meeting a moment of your own status and career. Okay. Look at that. This is conjunct here. And I think this energy, which comes back in February and is called the Great Conjunction, and astrologers say this is the beginning of like a new world order. I'm not even joking, like the big fucking deal about this. Because 0 degrees Aries is the beginning of the zodiac. Like it's the very beginning. And we don't have a historical date to look back on to see what this energy brings. But one idea is my idea is it's heaven, bringing heaven to earth. It's the sense of having an idea and it manifesting in the physical reality almost as soon as it becomes an idea. And so that's like sort of a practical way of talking about it. But I'm also a psychic who believes the technology we have makes it so you can see what I see. And then you can see that psychic ability could possibly be real because you're seeing on a screen the very things that I am picking up on using, you know, my psychic skill. Like that's another like kind of thing here. But when it comes to what is our new world reality and how is Platner a part of that, we're going to find out. But let me tell you what, there is no mistake here that this campaign was launched on this day, that it hit this particular signature energy, hit his midheaven, because there's so much that I think we have seen and witnessed that is going to be useful for us as we move more into our future here. We also are going to look here in the 12th house. His 12th house is loaded in that I really feel like enemy energies are just kind of a part of like his stuff. Now, absolutely, there can be subconscious enemies of the self, um, things to process that have not been processed, things maybe forgotten that you don't know are a part of your physiology, even your nervous system. And I think there's things that he's going to discover. But I will also say that North Node is a fated moment. And Uranus hitting that, he is the rebel that is meeting the future. He is the rebel meeting the future. He is the translator. He is the messenger. He is the channeler who is awakening. And his North Node has been activated at the time of this launch. It's fucking crazy. There's so much here. I could keep going. This is the date that one of his staffers quit, and we started sort of seeing things go, not good. I will say this is Jupiter aligning with his ascendant. I will say Jupiter has been a shield in his campaign because there are very little red lines here, lots of blue flowing energies. Look, here's Uranus, North Node, that fated rebel. There's something hidden though. There's something to be found out, but it's aligning with Pluto in Aquarius. I'm a believer that Pluto in Aquarius right now is part of the democratic socialist movement, or at least movements that are meant to bring power to the people. I believe that's what socialist Democrats are trying to do. And I see the flow of his North Node being activated by Uranus. This is the revolution. And you know what that 12th house could also mean? Did anybody see this coming? Did anybody see Graham Platner's success, see it as what it became? Did anybody anticipate that? I don't think so. And I think that's why he's where he's at right now. Saying, okay, guys, I guess I won't be the candidate. Like, what the fuck? Ooh, I'm going to get ripped up here. We also have this conjunction with the protection of Jupiter trining his chart ruler right here. Let's move along. I don't want this to take forever. October 20th. I think this was the Nazi tattoo. And what I would point out here is to see the conjunction of Mercury and Mars. Mars in its old ruler, or Mars as the old ruler of Scorpio. So we're looking at taboo subjects, talking about something that is taboo, something that is controversial. And to talk about his specific tattoo, which was a skull and crossbones, is a death symbol, right? And that is very scorpionic. And so this whole thing fits really well with the whole theme. But look at all the blue lines. We still have Jupiter protecting that ascendant in the first house. Moving on. May 30th, we're jumping ahead. This was a New York Times article, I think, that came out about extramarital stuff. Here we're seeing the conflict of the energy going to his Mercury. Hidden things. There's Mercury transitioning through his 12th house. Hidden enemies. Somebody's saying something about a hidden thing. It's a message. It's information. But we have, look at this. Remember the last one we were looking at was in October, and we saw Jupiter conjunct his ascendant. Well, Jupiter's moving around. It's not like just staying in place. But wouldn't you know, when this comes out, Jupiter's right on his ascendant. There's Venus bringing charisma and magnetism. And let me tell you what, that Venus, she really held out through all of what's to come here. But Jupiter there to protect. June 4th, next week, another New York Times. Now he's assertive or aggressive with women. Here we are, another, it's the same challenging square going to what we're talking about with him. But there's Venus right there. There's Jupiter right there. Okay. Continuing. June 9th, this is the primary. June 9th, look, Venus, Jupiter conjunct. Almost conjunct his ascendant. It counts. It counts in my world. He won the primary. He won it by 70%. It was shocking. It was shocking. I remember the polls closing that day and going, I probably won't find out about this one until tomorrow. And within an hour, I saw the BDN, Bangor Daily News, Graham won 70-something% of the vote. And I have chills just thinking about it because it was validation. This movement's real. This is the guy that's going to bring us there. And I can't. You know what I told my dad, who is not liberal? I'm just going to say that. Before the primary here, I was like, I can't wait to vote for Graham. I can't wait to do it. And then I got to do it. And then I got to see 70% of the vote for Mainers that were voting for the Democratic primary. Shocking. And it made me feel really good to be a Mainer. Even though people were really confused. People were confused. Why would Mainers vote for a guy with a Nazi tattoo? Why would Mainers vote for a woman abuser? And Mainers are very suspicious people. Mainers go, how are we being manipulated here? And fuck that. And we're sick of it. We're sick of it. Gonna be honest. This was last Monday. This is when Politico came out with their interview. It was video taped or filmed. And it was an interview. It was a past girlfriend of Graham Platner, and she said Graham sexually assaulted her while he was blackout drunk. And this is it. This was it. This was the thing that was the line where even the movement's leaders, the movement being the Socialist Democrats, said, all right, Graham, you're done. We're done here. And so we kind of watched over the week how things just kind of disintegrated. And This is where we're at. So this is the day. Let me show you the things that were here. First of all, this happened on a Monday. I remember this. I remember because it was last Monday. That's amazing that I can remember it. Over the weekend, July 4th weekend, there was a lot of anticipation from astrologers of what was going to happen with this signature over here. It's Uranus meeting, I'm just realizing this. It's Uranus meeting Mars, which is an energy that Platner is very familiar with. But it's over here in his 12th house of Gemini. So there's information, shocking, revealing information. Mars, maybe journalist, publication. And astrologers were watching this over July 4th weekend thinking, putting these components together, you can come up with a couple different things, but a shocking message was definitely one of the things. And so wouldn't you know, the weekend wrapped up, and on Monday, this came out. This came to be for Graham Platner's campaign and became the fuse that finally just blew the whole thing up. And wouldn't you know, remember I told you to watch that Jupiter? That Jupiter was protecting Platner this whole campaign. And as soon as Jupiter, look at that, as soon as Jupiter got out of his first house, that protection was gone. That shield was gone. Remember I was talking about Venus, how Venus was up in here all that time? She had already been in the second house for a few weeks, maybe up to 3 at this point. So that protection, that magnetism, all that shit just moved on. And then there he was dealing with the conversation. Oh, and guess what? Also, Mercury went retrograde when this information came out. So it's interesting because when Mercury goes retrograde and something like this comes out, we are reviewing information. We're looking back over things. A mistake was made. Now, was it Graham becoming the candidate? I'm going to say no. Actually, let me go back because I think there was one more thing here. Yep. The primary that was overwhelmingly his, we look to his midheaven and we have the Neptune moon conjunction. The moon is his chart ruler. So this is another like great signature here. Meeting his status. Okay. But anyway. So here, what are we looking at? We are looking at things fell apart. Oh, here's another interesting thing about this. So the allegation was violation. My body was violated, right? Also during that weekend, during that time, Chiron, which takes forever to go through a sign, it's like 7 or 8 years, just got out of Aries and into Taurus. Taurus is a Venus-ruled sign, so there's a feminine energy that's associated with Taurus. But Taurus is also about the body and security of physical things. So Chiron is our collective woundedness around, and we can get real specific here, the security of a female body. And this was opposing his power, his Pluto in that 5th house. Fascinating. And I think there's more to come with this Chiron in a bigger sense of protecting women's bodies. This will be Roe v. Wade in the next 7 years. It's coming back around. But anyway, we're not talking about that. But yeah, as soon as Jupiter got out of that first house, it's done. He's done. July 10th, this is when he gave a statement that he was going to step down. Going to his Mercury. Look at all the things going to Mercury. That's conversation. That's the message. That's his thinking. We also have Mercury, the transiting Mercury, conjunct exactly his ascendant. He's got a message. But it's retrograde. It's really hard to tell what goes on with a retrograde that's going to withstand the retrograde. And once the Mercury goes direct again and it meets up where it was before it went retrograde, what is going to still be standing that wasn't revised or fucked up, messed up? What is going to be looked at again? I think there's more hidden things that might be revealed. But look at this, that Jupiter that I said was his protector. It's in his second house and it's trining that midheaven. Remember that was part of his getting elected. It was part of the start of his campaign. There's Neptune now going retrograde, wanting to come back and revisit his midheaven. There might be more to come here down the road once that I'm not sure how far back that Neptune's going to go. Hopefully not too far back because it's squaring my Neptune, which is at 3 degrees, and I'm fucking sick of it because it's in my health house and it's making my health stuff very confusing to deal with. But we're also looking at, and what is our next slide here? This is today. This is the day. So there is a chunk of time in July that's coming right up when we're going to be seeing an amazing configuration called Barbeault's baskets, and it involves this Jupiter, which, remember, this Jupiter was protecting Graham through his whole campaign. This Jupiter is now in his second house. It is expanding his value again. It's expanding his money house. So he's not gone. Like there's something here he's gaining and benefiting from. And he's continuing. And here's the other thing. This Barbeault basket that I talked about, this Jupiter is a part of it. And so is the opposite sign over here, Pluto. So there's a tug of war individually amongst us, but also as a collective, where we are coming to terms with the expansiveness of Leo, which can be selfish or selfless, depends on where the heart lies, but it's about the individual, versus the collective, the power of the collective, the progress and change and technology. I think I already said this, but I'm a believer that Aquarius is the signature energy of the democratic socialist movement. I've also said, I don't know if I've said it on the channel, but Taurus is the sign of MAGA, the MAGA movement. And I think what we're facing here with this tug of war, power to the masses versus expansion of the individual, who's going to win? You can't have both. You can't have both. And I'm wondering if the socialist democrat movement is going to maybe consider that cult of personality is not how they want to do things. Because once you have cult of personality, you have a person who's representing a movement. And once that person's gone, what happens with that movement? Maybe it's not a person that should be, the representative of the movement. Maybe. Just a thought. There is flowing energy from, now what makes this a basket is there's 2 other placements that are involved. What's particularly fascinating about this basket is that these placements are slow moving planets. In fact, these 3 are the outer planets that you can't see with the visible eye. These are the planets that were discovered in the past, like 1700s. I don't know when Neptune was discovered, 1800s. Pluto was 1930 something. So these are the relatively new planets in our society for astrology. And here they are already creating a trine, a minor trine effect that is going to be effective in our energetic collective for years in these places. Aquarius, Aries, Gemini. But for a short time here in July, we're going to have this Jupiter be a part of things. To see how interactive this Jupiter was for Graham at this time, I have to think that it's going to keep going because it's hitting midheaven things for him. He's continuing visibility here. I think there's more to uncover, more surprises, more awakenings to uncover here, for him of himself, but also for us of like the hidden things that were a part of his campaign. Truth will set us free, right? Yeah. Or what else did I want to talk about? I think that's it. Hey, did you like it? Let me know. Put some stuff in the comments. What do you think of my ascendant placement? What do you think of that birth time? I think I did pretty darn good, but maybe you think it's a different one. I did go through the different kind of scenarios, but this just seemed to fit really, really well. Tell me your thoughts. What do you think of the Barbeault basket and how Graham might be involved with that? What do you think of the Barbeault baskets, if you care? What do you think is the future for Graham Platner? It looks like he might be still around. I just don't know to what capacity. Also, the other thing that I've been hearing and that I heard from a very reputable astrologer who, astrology is pretty woo woo, but she really tries her best to not have things so woo woo. Her name's Penny Thornton. And she mentioned how much of this Pluto Jupiter opposition was going to be a mess. And I think it might also be pretty prominent in some politicians' charts. And actually, today's July 12th, and I woke up to Lindsey Graham having passed today. And this Pluto Jupiter opposition really makes me wonder, like, what's going on with the powerful opposing the power, a great force opposing the power. And Leo is about the heart, by the way. And Lindsey Graham had, from what I saw, he had a heart attack. Ooh, okay. I'm not going to get conspiratorial there, but that's something that is to kind of pay attention to. What opposes the individuals that are in the spotlight, that, what is opposing the power on the collective side, things to think about. Check out my website, nextgenmedium.com. If you're interested in getting to know your psychic abilities and maybe see, like, Graham's chart just shows a lot about being a channeler. And I think, I think I might have mentioned this, like there might be times when he's talking and he doesn't even know what's coming out of his mouth or having time to really kind of process it before it comes out of his mouth. I know he's a coffee drinker like me. Maybe that helps him focus like me. And maybe there's more to it that makes sense. But let me know your thoughts. You can check out my website, nextgenmedium.com. Join my Next Gen Sovereign Educational Center and community. People who join it, like there's a foundation level that's self-led. So you get to experiment on your own. You get to learn on your own. You get to experience on your own. And that's the stuff that builds the evidence, that builds the interest, and really get you started on getting things under your belt before you start playing around with other people. Because I know the ego thing. I know you want to feel a sense of like ownership before you start playing with people, but it's not until you start like getting in groups and you're doing readings on each other, and that's when you really get that sense of like ownership. So start playing. Go to nextgenmedium.com, check out my Next Gen Sovereign Community and Education Center, and you can get started. I have like a 21-day thing you can get started with. And it all begins with attention and awareness, being able to pull away from the screen, being able to have your own thoughts, and then being able to have like interoception where you're able to kind of explore your body within your body. Just bring your attention to your toes and your knees and the different parts of you, and that starts to build the relationship that allows you to discern your psychic evidence and your intuitive hits. So check that out. If you appreciated this video, check out buymeacoffee.com/nextgenmedium. I'm on Substack and Facebook and what's the other one? Instagram. I was trying to say intuition so bad. But yeah, you can do psychic connection with me as well. We can chat that way. Let me know what you thought about this. If there's other topics of interest you'd be interested in kind of exploring. If I'm interested, I might do it. So let me know. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see how things go.